Good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for finding time to being with us this afternoon. We have so much in store for you as far as the latest news from across the continent is concerned. And before we get into the latest updates on the Nigerian election, let me first look at some other news that are making headlines from across the continent of Africa, and we start from the visit that is expected of France's President Emmanuel Macron. And French President Emmanuel Macron has unveiled France's new Africa strategy, which will see a reduction in its troops on the continent as more local forces co-run its bases. It comes just weeks after Russia promised more military support and training for countries across West Africa. Mr. Macron announced the new strategy ahead of four-nation Africa tour as more global powers vie for influence on the continent. I apologize for that. President Macron described French military bases in Africa as a heritage from the past. And then there are fears more than 100 people, including children, have died after the boat sank off southern Italy. At least 63 migrants are confirmed to have died, and 12 children, including a baby, said to be among the victims. The vessel, thought to have carried some 200 people, broke apart while trying to land near Crotone on Sunday. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has urged EU institutions to take action to stop clandestine migrant boat journeys on board. The boat, which had set out from Turkey a few days ago, was said to be people from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Tunisia's top diplomat sought to reassure sub-Saharan African countries or migrants on Monday in an interview days after comments by President Kiir Saied drew accusations of racism. Last week, Saied called for urgent measures against the hordes of sub-Saharan African migrants when he accused without evidence of causing a wave of crime and representing a plot to change the country's demographic makeup. Rights groups have since reported a spike in vigilante violence, including stabbings of black Africans, while migrants say they have been thrown out of their dwellings in huge numbers and handed over to mob justice. The African Union voiced its deep shock and concern at his comments, urging member states to refrain from racialized hate speech that could bring people to harm. In an interview on Monday, Foreign Minister Nabil Amar said Said's comments had been tremendously misinterpreted, and according to the figures from the Tunisian Forum for Economic and Social Rights, drawn from official sources and confirmed by Amar, the North African country of 12 million inhabitants boasts of about 21,000 sub-Saharan African migrants who lack full documentations, and the figure is around about 0.18% of the population includes foreign students at the country's universities who often complain they are unable to obtain the paperwork they need because of bureaucratic obstacles. And then we head over to the Democratic Republic of Congo and the latest. The president, Felix Tshisekedi, yesterday said that conflict with rebels in the east of the country could disrupt preparations for general elections scheduled for December the 20th. Congo's Electoral Commission started registering voters on February the 17th in North Kivu province, parts of which are occupied by the M23 rebel group, a Tutsi-led militia that has been waging an offensive against Congolese troops for almost a year. The fighting has displaced hundreds of thousands of people, raising concerns about the country's ability to prepare for the parliamentary and presidential elections later this year. And so President Tshisekedi is saying because of the persistence of this conflict and the unrest, it is possible that the polls there could be disrupted. I don't know if President Tshisekedi is telling us in very few words that he does not see the election process to be something viable right now. Okay, we head over to South Sudan. President Salva Kiir has accused with the chairperson of the National Election Commission, has discussed, the preparations for the general election at the end of the extended transitional period. They met at the President's office on Monday. The Minister of Presidential Affairs, Dr. Barnaba Maria Benjamin, said the President and Chairperson of the National Elections Commission discussed plans to prepare the country for general election. According to the roadmap in the peace agreement, South Sudan should conduct general elections at the end of the transitional period in December 2024. The chairperson of the National Election Commission, Professor Abednego Akok, reportedly said the meeting centered on the amendment of the Electoral Act to complete the process. And now let's get into the latest news on the Nigerian election. And Nigeria's ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu is leading in the presidential election after results that have been released in 14 of the country's 36 states now show Mr. Tinubu has won just over 44% of the tallied votes. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, has almost 33% of the vote. Labour's party, Peter Obi, has close to 18%, having caused an upset by defeating Mr. Tinubu in the biggest city in Lagos. On Monday, Mr. Abubakar and Mr. Obi's parties walked out of the venue where results were all being announced. The People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party have claimed there is a lack of transparency with the new electronic voter system. This was the first national election where an electronic device had been used to accredit voters. The Independent National Election Commission, INEC, has denied the opposition party's complaints. Its chairperson, Mahmoud Yakubu, said the announcement of results would continue. European Union observers said the electoral body's poor planning and communication undermined the trust in the process. Now, the PDP representative at the election centre, the capital Abuja, described the process as fraudulent and accused the governing All Progressive Congress, APC, of colluding with INEC. The Labour Party asked the announcements to be suspended or for the election to be cancelled and rerun. The APC said those dissatisfied with the results should go to court and that the parties should first let the process run its course. And a candidate in this election needs to have the most votes nationwide and a quarter of ballots cast in 25 of the 36 states, plus Abuja, to be declared the winner. If those thresholds are not reached, then there will be a second runoff between the top two candidates. Now, the APC and the PDP have dominated Nigeria since the end of the military rule in 1999. Mr. Obi, from the previously little-known party, Labour Party, ran for the first time, promising to challenge the two-party system. He has the support of many young people who make up a third of registered voters. There are 15 other candidates outside of the top three, and from the results announced so far, Tinubu has won most of the votes. And in Kano State, Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria's People's Party has been declared the winner in the presidential election with 997,272 votes. He has been twice a governor of the state from 1999 to 2003 and 2011 to 2015. In the election results, he was followed by Bola Tinubu of the ruling All Progressive Congress, who garnered around 517,341 votes. Atiku Abubakar of the opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP, got 131,716 votes. The results were announced by the state returning officer, Suleiman Bilbis. Results of the state level need to be certified and announced by the Independent Electoral and Commission's chairperson. And then a European Union observer mission has faulted the lack of transparency and operational failures in the Nigerian election. According to its preliminary findings, it said there was confidence in the independence and professionalism of the election body during preparations for the elections, but public trust waned over lack of efficient planning and effective communication in the process, including the election day, the observer said. Nigerians cast their votes in a presidential and parliamentary general election on Saturday. The observers noted that some poll centers opened late and polling procedures were not always followed. They said the uploading of the results using an electronic system did not work, raising concerns as transmission of presidential election results forms was delayed. The observer team has urged stakeholders in the election to uphold peace until the process is completed and called for any disputes arising to be addressed through the legal channels. And still staying with Nigeria's election, and observers from the Commonwealth have released a statement describing Nigeria's elections as largely peaceful. The chairperson of the Commonwealth Observer Group and former South African President Thabo Mbeki said the people were largely accorded their constitutional right to vote. And however, he did highlight challenges, namely some polling units being ill-equipped with sufficient lighting, and recommended the Electoral Commission set up a post-election review. He also said those who had grievances about the election should express their complaints through available legal channels. Commonwealth observers were in Benue, Edo, Kano, Lagos, Ondo, Rivers, and Sokoto states, as well as the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja. The body will leave on the 2nd of March when the observers will submit a full report. The latest, former President Olusegun Obasanjo has urged the country's electoral body to save the country from a looming danger over what he described as corruption of the electoral process. In a statement, he said tension was building up and asked President Muhammadu Buhari to let all elections that do not pass the credibility and transparency test be cancelled. He said the Independent National Electoral Commission's INEC decision to revert to manual transmission of results were deliberate, despite investing on an electoral system that would allow immediate transmission of results from polling units. And the retired president also appealed to citizens to be patient and expressed confidence in the system working right. And he said he strongly believed that nobody will toy with the future and fortune of Nigeria at this juncture. And he also said that it is not secret that INEC officials at the operational level have been allegedly compromised to make what would have worked not to work and revert to the manual transmission of results, which is manipulated and the results doctored. That is what former President Olusegun Obasanjo and, of course, the government of Nigeria has had its rebuttal on this. And the government has accused the former President Olusegun Obasanjo of attempting to undermine the electoral process and incite violence after he cast doubt over the veracity of the Saturday's election. And this is what the Information Minister Lai Mohammed said: through masquerading as an unbiased and concerned elder statesman, former President Obasanjo is in reality a non-partisan who is bent on thwarting by subterfuge the choice of millions of Nigerian voters. What is expected from a self-respecting elder statesman are words and actions that dose tension and serve as soothing balm. I know, he just had to go all the way Shakespeare. And in a statement released on Monday night, Mr. Obasanjo had said tension was building up in the country amid questions about whether the elections had been free and fair. The 85-year-old asked President Muhammadu Buhari to let all elections that do not pass the credibility test, like I've read there earlier, and transparency to be cancelled. But Mr. Lai Mohammed countered, saying Mr. Obasanjo was not qualified to advise Mr. Buhari. The Information Ministry tweeted this statement. And in his time, he organized perhaps the worst election. That is what the office of now president, this is just something else. So this is what the office of President Buhari is saying through his Information Minister, that during his time, former President Obasanjo organized perhaps the worst election since Nigeria's return to democratic rule in 1999. And he went to praise the electoral body, saying they had managed to act credibly, and pointed to preliminary reports by the regional body ECOWAS Electoral Observation Mission and the Commonwealth Observer Group. He added that anyone could contest the conduct of the election through the courts, but urged Nigerians to wait for the Electoral Commission to announce their official results. And even as we look at that, Atiku has won in Sokoto and Kaduna. That is according to the provincial reports. Nigeria's main opposition candidate Atiku Abubakar has won in the northern state of Sokoto and Kaduna, according to the provincial results released on Tuesday morning. The narrowly won in Sokoto with around 288,679 votes against the ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu, who came in second at 285,444 votes, and Labour Party's Peter Obi garnered about 6,568 votes. The opposition won a more convincing victory in Kaduna State, with Mr. Abubakar getting about 554,360 votes against Mr. Tinubu, who came in second at 399,293 votes. Results released at the state level, of course, needs to be satisfied by the Electoral Commission. And the announcement of results from the southern oil-rich state of Rivers have been suspended as the electoral official in charge has complained of death threats. Charles Teddy Adia said he and his family had been threatened by those alleging he intended to rig the results, which he denies. He says he will not collate any further results until this matter is addressed by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And the BBC tried to reach out to Rivers State in the PDP stronghold, but many of its young educated residents are supporters of the Labour Party candidate. That is according to what the BBC had gathered over this. Now, there are indications that its powerful Governor Nyesom Wike, who is leading a rebellion within the PDP after losing at the primary last year to Atiku Abubakar, is backing the ruling APC party. And that is quite worrying there. I can see a few number of you on the platform right now. Can you tell me what is happening? Now, if in Rivers State, the electoral officer, the INEC officer who is supposed to be collating and issuing this result, is saying he has stopped to do this because he has received death threats. So now what happens after this? And he's saying he will not continue with this exercise until INEC addresses this issue. I don't know if INEC has the capacity to offer security, but I think this is the point where the state needs to step in and guarantee security to this electoral official. This is very worrying, and what has been happening in some areas. And so let's look at this response by President Buhari's office, responding to what the former President Olusegun Obasanjo said. And these matters that have been raised by Olusegun Obasanjo, I think it's not very light. These are very weighty matters. And of course, he did this yesterday, and he said the country, President right now, President Muhammadu Buhari, who I doubt if there's anything he can do at this point, but former President Olusegun Obasanjo was beseeching. I don't know if he was beseeching or he was directing or he was ordering. They're all generals, so this is how they talk, and they've never really have been known to have love for each other. So I'm not surprised that this is how the kind of approach he has taken. It's not the first time the former president is criticizing the handling of a matter by the now sitting, President Muhammadu Buhari. He always have something to say, and of course, President Buhari and his office, they never disappoint because they always have something to say back to what Olusegun Obasanjo, which sometimes I find to be amusing. But in this case, these are very weighty matters that I feel the former president is raising. And I don't know if it is the manner in which he decided to the words that he used that did not sit well with our President Muhammadu Buhari, that made the office of the president to respond in the manner in which they responded. So President Olusegun Obasanjo, former president, urged the country's electoral body to save the country from a looming danger of what he described as corruption of the electoral process. I think I had that letter forwarded to me earlier on. Let me see if I'm able to get it so that I can really read as at least a part of it. I had it forwarded to me earlier. Yes, I think I have it. So let me see if I'm able to read it. Nigerian brothers and sisters, greetings to you all. I am constrained to speak at this point. I crave the indulgence. He craves the indulgence. He really sat down and thought through this letter. But this is what he said. I crave the indulgence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency General Muhammadu Buhari, to make this statement because I have had opportunity to keep him aware of what I know is happening and the danger looming ahead. On many occasions in the past, I have not hesitated, which is very true, to point out lacuna in the action of the president and his government. But as far as the election issues are concerned, the president has proved beyond reasonable doubt that he will want to leave a legacy of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections. So that is the first paragraph. Not too bad, right? All right. So until last Saturday night, February 25th, 2023, the good and noble plan and preparation for the elections seemed to be going well for the Independent and National Electoral Commission, INEC. A lot of money was spent to introduce bimodal voter accreditation system, BVAS, and the server for immediate transmission of results from polling units. It is not a secret that INEC officials at operational level have been allegedly compromised to make what should have worked not to work and to revert to manual transmission of results, which is manipulated and doctored. The chairman of INEC may claim ignorance, but he cannot fold his hands and do nothing when he knows that election process has been corrupted and most of the results that are brought outside the beavers and server are not true reflection of the will of Nigerians who have made their individual choice at this stage. We do not need wittingly or unwittingly to set up this country on fire. We do not need irresponsibility and an patriotic act of those who allegedly give money to INEC officials to perverse and those who collected the blood money. Let me, for perversion and those who collected the blood money, let me appeal to the chairman of INEC if his hands are clean to save Nigeria from the looming danger and disaster, which is just, let me see if I can get the other part. All right. Hold on, I'm struggling here, technology. But let me see if I can get the second part of this letter so that I can read us the whole of it. All right, so waiting to happen. If the chairman can postpone elections for 4 days to the elections, he can do anything to rectify the errors of the last 2 days. No beavers, no results to be accepted, and no upload through server, no result to be accepted. Where beavers and servers have been manipulated or rendered inactive, such results must be declared void and inadmissible for election declaration. Chairman of INEC, and I have thought that you would use this opportunity to amend your reputation on character for posterity. Your Excellency President Buhari Muhammadu, tension is building up, and please let all elections that do not pass the credibility and transparency test be cancelled and be brought back with areas where elections were disrupted for next Saturday, March the 4th, 2023, and beavers and server officials be changed. To know which stations or polling units were manipulated, let the committee of INEC staff and representatives of the 4 major political parties with the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association look into what must be done to have hitch-free elections next Saturday. Mr. President, may your plan and hope for leaving a legacy of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections be realized. Mr. President, please don't let anybody say to you that it does not matter or it is the problem of INEC, or no account should you be seen as part of the collusion and compromise. When the die is cast, it will be your problem and that of the nation. The chairman of INEC may sneak out of the country or go back to his Ivorian tower. Your Excellency, thank you for hearing me out. Compatriot Nigerians, please exercise patience until the wrong is righted. I strongly believe that nobody will toy with the future and fortune of Nigeria at this juncture. Long live Nigeria in peace, security, stability, and in the hope of greater future. Signed Olusegun Obasanjo on the 27th of February 2023. Well, that was quite a lengthy letter. From what I was just reading there, and I'm sure most of you are acquainted with that letter because it has caused a lot of conversations, especially among Nigerians. I don't know if I've not seen any undertones of disrespect from former President Olusegun Obasanjo towards President Muhammadu Buhari. Really, or maybe I don't know. You can tell me, but I was not able to spot any of that there, and so I don't know if that warranted this kind of reply that has come out of the President Muhammadu Buhari. Who says that though masquerading as an unbiased and concerned elder statesman, former President Obasanjo is in reality a non-partisan who is bent on thwarting by subterfuge the choice of millions of Nigerian voters. That is what Information Minister Lai Mohammed said, and of course the office of course he's speaking on behalf of President Muhammadu. And he's saying that former President Obasanjo is attempting to undermine the electoral process and incite violence, which to some extent I could see how his letter could be interpreted by those already who have a feeling, because we've been having this conversation here on the Twitter spaces, and around Twitter, I think it's even trending, and a lot of Nigerians are expressing others are in support and believe the process went on well. I think depending on which party or which person you were supporting in that, but from the comments that have been online, a lot of people don't have confidence or are raising integrity issues in how this election was conducted, especially when it comes to the relaying of the results. That is where the problem is. Nigerians woke up on Saturday, they went to cast their vote. They've been sitting back and hoping that their voices will actually count through the votes that they casted, and in the hopes that the votes will be counted as they were cast on Saturday, which normally is not really what happens in a lot of our African elections, but that is a problem that has been experienced. But now when you just go back to this letter by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, I think this is quite alarming. Some of the issues there that he is raising, I think is quite alarming, and I don't know how some people will read this letter and not react. I'm sure there are those who might take it to heart. So I do understand perhaps, Nigeria's government in its assertion that such wordings or such whatever former president wrote might incite some violence, but also I think the manner in which they responded. At the end of the day, you're still the government. At the end of the day, you're still in charge. So I don't know if just reading through the letter, because I needed to understand which part of that letter that seemed to be perhaps undermining the government, which really isn't. I think former president tried to be as respectful as he could. He doesn't always write a letter towards, his the current president. Like I've said, they really have no love between them. It is not the first time that former President Obasanjo is criticizing an issue and how it is being handled by President Muhammadu Buhari, and Buhari does not like him very much. There's a time he criticized the state of security in Nigeria, and he was saying Nigeria, since the leadership of President Buhari has turned into or is becoming a banana republic with the runaway in security, which really, where is the lie? maybe not fully a banana republic, but the issue of insecurity is something that is worrying. And the manner in which the president has been handling this matter is quite lackluster and has not been efficient and has not been effective. And the strategy that he's been using really to address this matter has not been working. And instead, the issue of insecurity has just morphed into something much problematic, not just to Nigeria, but also to its neighbors. So that is there. But, Obasanjo is saying this election, from whatever reports that is there and from where he's seated, he's saying there are areas that in the manner in which part of this process was handled, it appears to be compromised, and so it will not guarantee results that stand the test of integrity. So he was beseeching the president to maybe cancel. I don't know if President Buhari, according to the constitution, can really cancel these elections. I don't know what part he gets to play in an electoral process. I guess to some extent, the government just needs to make sure that the money, the funds that is required by INEC is provided, and then the government needs to ensure that security during this very important national exercise is provided, in which we saw some security lapses. That means the government did not even do a good job as far as organizing its security apparatus to ensure that Nigerians are safe while they are going to vote and during the voting process, and even as they wait. And Nigerians are safe, period. But we saw a few security lapses and breaches of security that really went to show the poor planning around security. And other issues now to do with the BVRs, so BVRs, here we call them BVR, biometric voter registration, but their identification, but there you call them BVRs. And this BVRs was meant to ensure an efficient election as it can get, free and fair, and guarantee a process that is theft proof, that could not be infiltrated, that could not be manipulated. But unfortunately, it appears this BVRs is really letting down Nigerians, and I think at this point they're really agitated because these machines are supposed to ensure efficiency and relaying of the results as quick as possible. And now, many hours later, after the elections ended, in some states on Saturday and in other areas on Sunday, Nigerians still don't know. But from the results that we are receiving now, the APC candidate seems to be leading with the results that have been received so far. And I think from what I was reading earlier, about 44% of the tally now, the votes have been tallied. So you have so much still remaining to be done. So I don't think Nigerians will even know by the end of today who their next president is until maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I don't know. But Mr. Tinubu has won just over 44% of the tallied votes, and his main rival, Atiku Abubakar, has won almost 33% of the tallied votes so far. And Labour's party, Peter Obi, has come in a distant third, with 18% having caused a bit of an upset by defeating Mr. Tinubu in the biggest city, that is in Lagos. So I don't know what happens after that, because I think from how the winner is supposed to be declared, you're supposed to get 25% of I think 25 states, and then plus Lagos, is it? So now if you have lost Lagos, now what happens after that? Please, could you enlighten me on what happens after that? Or the winner is just the winner is just the winner. That is how it goes. All right, so the European Union observers raised a few issues as far as the lack of transparency. So they have said there has been some issues with transparency. So President Obasanjo is not very far from, what he's saying, because the European Union observers are also saying, according to what they were observing during the observer mission, they noted a few cases where the process was marred with issues of lack of transparency and operational failures. And something else that the former president has brought up, I think that we should underline and not just gloss over the issues that he pointed out. And he said that the failure of these electronic equipments that were used as part of the election process, it is actually man-made. So he's saying there are the electoral officials who are intentionally refusing to use this, or they're failed out of. It is what do you call it? This is something that has been orchestrated to happen. So he's saying this is something that has been strategic, and it's not because these machines are failing. We know even in Kenya we had issues around that. There are areas where the machine could not even identify some key candidates, and it was such a shocker. It was not in their system, but we do have the alternative to that. And so it's former President Obasanjo, and I think the issue that the EU observers are also raising, but they're not saying it in the words of former president, but the former president is very categorical in saying the failures of these machines were orchestrated. These were part of the manipulation by some officials in the INEC who work for INEC. So I think these are very weighty matters, that perhaps INEC should take over, and maybe INEC should issue a statement. I know they have, and not just dismiss what the former president is saying, but perhaps at this point, just maybe speak into the confidence that now obviously is weighing out from some supporters there, from some a good number of Nigerians, and say, we hear what the former president is saying, and we will maybe investigate, or just some level of assurance. But if you issue such statements that are arrogant and are just adding water to the fuel, you're not helping a situation. A section of the electorate are already feeling quite uneasy, and they already share the same sentiment. So if the government and perhaps INEC does not handle this matter in a manner that really will inspire confidence, and in a manner that will urge Nigerians to stay calm, then you're not really helping the situation, the office of President Muhammadu Buhari and INEC. So I think things will be said, and it is a political process, so you expect politicians to be politicians, but also there are issues that are being raised by these other institutions and these other electoral observers, like the Commonwealth. Well, of course, the ECOWAS said everything went on fantastically. I'm not surprised. I was expecting that from ECOWAS, but now I'm waiting for the African Union observers led by our former president Uhuru Kenyatta. I'm really waiting for that report. But for ECOWAS, I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. And so the issues that the former president raised are the same, some of those issues that the EU observers have really underpinned there. And they're saying the process in some places, not all places, in some places lacked transparency, and there were operational failures in the election, and that is just in the preliminary findings. So a full report shall be released later, and it said that there was confidence. Nigerians had confidence in the independence and professionalism of the electoral body during the preparations of the elections, up until the polling day and after, and how the process has been handled. So that is what they said. So I don't know between then and now what really has happened, but the EU observers are saying how the elections were handled and the lack of transparency is what really now has affected how this whole process has played out. And they're saying public trust has waned out over lack of efficient planning and effective communication in the process. So these are issues that are coming up. So I see a few of you. You can let me know what is happening there, and you can update me on the latest, because I really want to know what's really going on there. I know the Nigerian presidential candidate Peter Obi from the Labour Party has won in the capital. That I think I have said there earlier. And one of you here is saying if they refuse to give Peter Obi the mantle, Nigeria will disintegrate. But from the results that we have right now, Biafra Land Development, that is your name, Peter Obi is coming in a distant third. You know, APC candidate Tinubu seems to be on the lead, followed by Abubakar, who comes in second. And Tinubu, so far, according to the provisional results that have been that have come out now, he has 44% of so far 44% of the votes that have been counted and that have been tallied. Tinubu has a good number of that. I had that report here, followed by Abubakar, and then Peter Obi comes in third, unless a miracle happens right now. But I think the race is between Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar at this point, I believe. But we saw yesterday there are the opposition leaders who stormed out of some place because they were saying that they were criticizing the manner in which the results were being tallied and were being relayed. So they stormed out of certain centers. So that is just what is happening there. I'm trying to see, because I really wanted to get some update from you. James Friday, thank you. And you're such a loyal viewer. We appreciate your patronage, really. Thank you so much. So I'm trying to look for the latest here. I'm trying to look for the latest, and all right. So let me see what's going on here So the People's Democratic Party, the Labour Party, and the African Democratic Party have asked the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Mahmoud Yakubu, to step aside. The three parties, in a joint press conference earlier today, alleged, just a few moments ago actually, alleged that the February 2023 presidential election was marred by violence, rigging, and intimidation of voters. The parties demanded the conduct of a fresh election. So see, the PDP, the Labour Party of Peter Obi, and the African Democratic Party. So these are the three other outside of APC who seems to be on the lead right now. So the other parties are saying, no, we don't agree with how the electoral chairperson has handled this. And now they're demanding for Mahmoud Yakubu to step aside. So that is the latest. And this is, just a breaking news. And the parties are now demanding for a conduct of fresh election. I think just from what the former president said, I think. And so it's quite something here. And the Independent National Electoral Commission has declared Labour Party candidate Peter Obi the winner of the presidential election held in Imo State on Saturday. The returning officer for the state, Charles Esimone, who announced the results in Owerri, said that Mr. Obi scored about 352,904, while Bola Tinubu of All Progressive Congress scored about 66,000. That's a huge margin. 66,171 votes, while Atiku Abubakar of the People Democratic Party got 30,000, while Rabiu Kwankwaso got about 1,536 votes. Those are just some of the updates that we are receiving in line with that. And the Pan-Southwest Social Political Organization, under the aegis of the Yoruba Council Worldwide, today called on former President Olusegun Obasanjo to guard his utterances and avoid setting Nigeria on fire. The organization described as unfounded and false the alarm Obasanjo raised against the officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission in the build-up to the coalition of the results of the presidential election. YCW alleged that Obasanjo aimed to cause ethnic conflict that will inevitably nosedive into civil unrest, as earlier postulated by him in his letter dated the 27th. That letter was from yesterday. The social cultural organization warned that any attempt to allow any unilateral cancellation by the chairman of INEC, as proposed by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo and co-accomplices, is a recipe for anarchy and full implosion that will take many years to repair. The president of the YCW, Olatodum Hassan, described Obasanjo's, he calls it an outburst, as selfish, egocentric and deliberate attempt to viciously scuttle the ongoing smooth electoral process. Did he just say smooth? Or maybe these reports we've been receiving from these other sides of the world is not true, but he says the electoral process has been quite smooth, through which Obasanjo wants to taint his tainted partisan efforts to create a false impression against the use of the bimodal voters accreditation system. That is what Hassan, what is his name now? The chairperson of the social cultural organization, Yoruba Council Worldwide. Okay, that is what he said, and he's told former president to guard his utterances, as anything he's saying could plunge the country in a lot of problem, on fire. Those are the exact words that he used there. So that is the latest as far as the elections, and I think before I end the show, just in is that protests have broken out in Asaba, the Delta State capital, over the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections. In a video seen in the morning making the rounds on social media, youths in their hundreds are seen chanting the name of the presidential candidate of Labour Party, Peter Obi. The voice behind the video said, "This is happening live in Asaba now. Obi must be the president of Nigeria, whether they like it or not. Our votes now." Okay, so all right, so that is what there was a protest that broke out in Asaba over elections, and that happened a bit earlier on, just a few moments ago. So a lot is happening there so far, but from the results that have been received so far, Bola Tinubu is leading so far with the votes that have been counted and tallied. Atiku Abubakar comes in second, Peter Obi comes in third, and Rabiu Kwankwaso comes in fourth place in these elections. So, but the former president has said that he's unhappy with the electronic system of the transmitting results and how it was not working. And the office of the president has also given its reply. Now, the main opposition party in Nigeria has expressed its concern over the conduct, that is PDP, of Saturday's election, saying it was marred by problems. A statement by the People's Democratic Party criticized the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. I'll read just part of their letter. "Let's be clear, the election is inconclusive and that INEC chairman cannot proceed without the political parties being present to object or accept the results of the National Coalition exercise. The opposition party urged poll officials to declare Saturday's election as inconclusive and to organize repeat polls in areas where the electronic voting machines were not used and where the exercise was disrupted by violence. Both the PDP and the opposition Labour Party have alleged there was a lack of transparency with the new electronic system, which was being used to accredit voters for the first time. INEC has denied the opposition party's complaints. Latest results show Mr. Tinubu has garnered over 44% of the tallied votes. His main rival, Atiku Abubakar, has come in with second with 33% of the votes. Peter Obi has 18% of the votes, and I think I've already given you that update. So I think so far that is what I can bring to your attention this afternoon. Hopefully we have our next broadcast, God willing. I don't know if Nigeria would have heard its president declared, the new president declared yet, but we'll bring you up to date. I want to thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Ogoto. Bye-bye for now.